So I wanted to come back and look at the best available players here left in day 2 for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the Scrambling Armchair Chiefs news analysis and opinion every day. Now, I think the Chiefs have picks 31, 34, and 64 on the day. So just real quick, what we're going to do, a real dirty way of looking at things. I pulled up the ESPN best available overall players and just clicked on 31, 34, and 64. And these are the players, and I'm going to be real honest with you guys. If these are the players that the Kansas City Chiefs happen to luck into over the course of day 2 of the NFL draft, these 3 players would make the Kansas City Chiefs a better team. The 31st best player available, according to ESPN, is Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback out of Notre Dame, 6 foot tall, 193 pounds. We see here, and unofficial 4.39 40-yard dash. I don't see that on tape. He did not run the 40-yard dash. He did 17 reps at bench press at his pro day. This is a player that would come in and would give the Kansas City Chiefs quite possibly the best 4-deep corner class or 4-deep corners in the NFL. It would make the Chiefs very formidable to throw on, and they still would be struggling with pass rush, but having those corners on the field, having guys like Benjamin Morrison able to run out there on special teams would be a very good thing for this team. You have someone ready to go once Jaylen Watson is out of Kansas City. And Benjamin Morrison is a guy who does have starting level potential in the NFL. I don't think he's a cornerback 1. I do think he's a cornerback 2. That's sort of his ceiling. But he would be a very capable, very competent cornerback 2. You would get him with an opportunity to come in and learn for a year while being that cornerback 3, cornerback 4 type guy. And it would ultimately make the Kansas City Chiefs very difficult to throw on. It would be interesting to see how they would sort of adjust the nickel back numbers, how they would sort of do the dime packages for this defense. What defensive backs do you want on the field? Because you would have, again, 4 very good corners, and you did lose one of your starting safeties prior to free agency, or in free agency, pardon me. Long night. So a lot of work done. Real quick, there is an hour-ish long video coming on the Josh Simmons pick. There was a 22-minute, I think, instant reaction video on Josh Simmons that went live last night, so keep your eyes open for that. The 34th player available, Landon Jackson, the edge out of Arkansas, 6'6", 264. That's very good size. This is exactly what Spags would like. 33.25-inch arms, 10-inch hands, good numbers there. Ran a 4.68 40-yard dash at the combine, 91st percentile, a 40.5-inch vertical leap, 99th percentile, a 129-inch broad jump, 99th percentile. You see here 48th percentile arms, but an 82.75-inch wingspan is 87th percentile there. Very broad-shouldered player here. Ended up doing good with his cone drills as well. 7.13 3-cone drill, which is 82nd percentile. A short shuttle of 4.55, which is 46th percentile. But again, what you're looking at with those numbers is oftentimes guys only do those drills if they know they're going to do very well. Because if you fail at that drill, people will mark you down very, very harshly. It is a drill that translates very well to the football field. Even that 10-yard split there for Jackson, a 1.65 is 72nd percentile. Now you see that he is 91st percentile 40, 72nd percentile 10. So he is a speed builder. He does have to build his speed. What you're looking at here is a projection. What you're looking at here is a guy that is a lot of tools. He's not really necessarily the strongest performer. What you're counting on here is your coaching staff to be able to build up a guy like Landon Jackson to contribute at the NFL level. And if you can do that, you have this would be a pick in the 3rd round. Remember, there's that triumvirate. If you have production, measurables, and testing numbers. All three of those things out the wazoo, you're a first rounder. 2 of the 3, you're probably a second round grade. 1 of the 3, and you are a third round guy. Here with Landon Jackson, you have the measurables and the testing numbers, but not necessarily the production on the field. You see there, he had 6.5 sacks last year, so that's a good number, but I don't think he is the strongest performer. You're looking at a guy, in my opinion, doesn't have the best hand usage, doesn't show the athleticism on the field, but if you can coach, you're counting on paying your coaches all that money to be able to bring that out of him. And the last guy here, the 34th ranked player available according to ESPN, is Demetrius Knight Jr., a linebacker out of South Carolina, 6'2", 235 pounds, a 4.58 40-yard dash at the combine. It's a good number. A 31.5-inch vertical, not a good number. 10-yard split of 158, it's a good number. Not the strongest athlete. I'm going to be real honest with you. I haven't done a whole lot of work on Demetrius Knight Jr. From what I understand, this is a guy whose ceiling would probably be a plus starter at linebacker. I don't think he has elite stuff. I think that he is, the floor on him is probably replacement or backup linebacker and special teams ace, which not great at the hind end of the third round, but still you have to have contributors. You have to have contributors on every corner of the roster, and that would be a guy who could contribute. The athleticism here is, I think he's more physical than Tranquil, I think. He's not as physical as Leo. He's not as physical as Leo Chanel or Nick Bolton. He is more athletic than Nick Bolton. He's not as good an athlete as Leo Chanel. Leo Chanel is off the charts, but I think that he shows his athleticism more, or at least as much on the field as does Leo. Leo Chanel was obviously instrumental in winning the Broncos game this past season with his special teams contributions, getting that massive paw out there and having his forearm hit with a football. But I don't know. I think that Demetrius Knight would allow the Chiefs to walk away from one of their linebackers once that contract is up. So let's look at the best available at positions of need. We are starting here with edge. Mike Green is a guy who got all sorts of hype leading up to the draft out of Marshall. 6'3", 251 pounds. Green led the FBS in sacks, 17 in 2024. He explodes off the ball with transitions from speed to power, rushing the passer. His hands are active, and he changes direction well. Green wins inside with weaving moves and dips and flattens at the top of his rush. The downside with Green, from what I have seen, I don't think he's all that strong versus the run. So I'll compare him to Mike Dana. He's better. I think he is more explosive rushing the passer than Mike Dana. I don't think he's as good versus the run as Mike Dana. He's someone who might allow you, he'd be good depth at the defensive line. But that said, I am kind of the outlier here. I think Mike Green is probably a 4th or 5th round pick. He was getting first round hype from a lot of publications. Was that sort of pick me type marketing from some of these writers, etc., publications heading into the draft? Maybe. I'm not sure. But moving on, JT Tuimoloau, 6'4", 265 pounds. This is sort of your prototypical Spags edge. Tuimoloau is a powerful edge rusher. He's an effective hand fighter who makes it tough for blockers to lock onto his frame, swiping their hands off of him as he works upfield. I think that this would be a great pick in the 2nd round for the Kansas City Chiefs, should he find himself there with the 31st pick in the 2nd round. This is a guy that I think would automatically upgrade the defense, probably 25 snaps a game. He might not be a starter. He might be a starter. I think he can grow into a starter. I think he has potential to be one of these elite pass rushing guys. That said, I don't know if he's there yet. He might take a year or two to get them. Oladejo is a guy, 6'3", 259, was getting a lot of hype prior to the college season and would be an interesting addition. I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on him, haven't done a whole lot of work there. Nick Scorton, 6'3", 257 pounds. Scorton bends well enough to dip and rip at the top of his pass rush. He gets good pass rush as a power rusher and mixes in an effective spin move. He tracks the quarterback and falls back inside when the QB steps up. Another sort of, this is your Spags guy. Nick Scorton is a Steve Spagnuolo defensive end. I think that he has starting level potential. I think that he has the stuff to come in and make a contribution as a rookie. I think that he is a guy that, should the Chiefs find themselves drafting, would be an immediate upgrade to the defense, to the pass rush, and he holds his ground in the running game. Here is Landon Jackson. He is ranked 65th overall by ESPN. You have, like I said, I think that this is a guy who would be a project pick. I think he could work out. You're counting on your coaches again, etc. After that, Omar Norman here. I really like Omar Norman. 6'4", 244. He does not play like a sub-250 defensive end. Omar Norman is an explosive speed rusher with excellent length at the top of his rush. He can pivot, shoot his hands, and transition from speed to power. He bends and closes well with the ability to shoot inside after working upfield as a disruptive run defender. These are all defensive ends that I would love to see the Chiefs get their hands on in that second, third round range. What about defensive tackle? We go back up to the top here. Okay, it does it for me. Darius Alexander, this is another guy who had a lot of hype heading into the draft. Again, like with Mike Green, I don't know if I see it. They say here, Alexander is a better pass rusher than his 9 sacks over 5 college seasons suggest. Well, that's hard to prove, really, right? And he has the tools to continue to get better. He shoots his hands, locks out, and pushes blockers, rushing the passer. He can get off blocks at the top of his rush and mix in a push-pull move. Again, I would not be upset with this pick. I think he would automatically start for the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, I don't think he's going to be there with the 31st pick in the second round. Shamar Turner, 6'3", 290. This is maybe the ultimate Steve Spagnuolo guy. Turner is an effective hand fighter and makes it tough for blockers to get into his frame rushing the passer. He's a disruptive run defender who slips blocks, locates the ball, and makes plays in the backfield. Turner splits double teams well, and he is strong enough to stack and shed blockers when his technique is sound. He is a guy that would provide some versatility for this defensive line. 6'3", 290 at defensive end for Spagnuolo is not going to be something that would make you bat your eye in the middle of a game. A guy that I think would start immediately at defensive tackle, would offer you reps at defensive end, and would probably be a contributor on special teams as well. TJ Sanders, a guy that I'm not as high on, 6'4", 297. Sanders is an outstanding run defender who can play 2 gaps and 1 gap. He shoots his hands, stacks blocks, and sheds in time to make plays. He's light but is strong and holds his ground in one-on-one. Again, I think he starts for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't know that I like him as much as some of these other defensive tackles, even ones that are ranked lower than TJ Sanders here, ranked 47th overall. Omar Norman Lot, a guy that is often projected to the Kansas City Chiefs, was getting first round hype to the Kansas City Chiefs, 66th overall by ESPN. Norman Lot explodes off the ball, gets under offensive linemen, and drives them into the backfield. He is a long and strong enough to press blockers with his frame, and he rarely stays blocked. He is a slippery athlete, 6'2", 291, though a little undersized. You put him next to Chris Jones, and you have a disruptive interior of the defensive line. I don't think he's very strong versus the run. I think that you might be getting your linebackers into a little bit of trouble, putting Omar Norman Lot and Chris Jones in front of them. Chris Jones has been getting much better versus the run. But Omar Norman Lot is a guy who is crafty and could, I should say, possibly improve a lot versus the run in the NFL if he takes coaching well and he's able to learn some of the sort of sneakier tricks that defensive tackles will use. Then we have Alfred Collins, a guy that I really like. 6'6", 332 pounds. This is a run-stuffing defensive tackle. Collins is a massive and versatile defensive lineman with excellent length. He can line up anywhere along the defensive line. He stacks tackles, guards, and centers. He tracks the ball well, sheds blockers, and splits some double teams. Collins has some upside as a pass rusher, too. He's at his best when he shoots his hands and works off his punch. He's a powerful edge rusher and gets his hands up. He had 7 passes defensed in 2024. That size, 6'6", will allow you put him next to Chris Jones in the center of that defense. It makes passing lanes very, very difficult for opposing quarterbacks, and that cascades, right? That's something that will always be in the back of their mind. Can I throw this shallow over the center of the field? Do I have the reach to be able to get over these 2 defensive linemen? And would be really, really a good pickup for the Kansas City Chiefs. And obviously we have to talk about Deion Walker here, 6'7", 331, rumored to be in the 350 range, right? So it depends on if he has his triple S in the morning. Walker is a gigantic defensive lineman who lined up all along Kentucky's defensive front. He's strong enough to occupy and split double teams between the tackles. Walker sets the edge when he plays outside and pulls blockers off his frame in time to make plays. He swims through blocks and gets into the backfield. He's a project. He has all of the physicality you could want from a defensive tackle, but he is a project. Would be interesting to see him next to Chris Jones in the center of that defense. Again, those 2 in the middle would be massive and would provide their own types of problems to opposing offensive lines. Moving on to the offensive side of the ball, let's look at running back. Travion Henderson is still available. I don't think he will be. Quinshon Judkins still available. I don't think he will be. These are both guys that if they are there in the second round when the Chiefs pick, I think they would probably snatch them up pretty quickly. The Chiefs do have a full backfield right now, but we did see Brett Veach talking about running backs prior to the draft. Was this a smokescreen? It is hard to say at this point, but both of these guys would contribute to the Chiefs immediately. I don't know that I would take a guy in the second or third round. I would probably wait and see who is there in the fourth, simply because the Chiefs do have a full house at running back right now. Brett Veach is, again, an absolute master of the UDFA, the undrafted rookie free agent, and I think that might be where he goes again. He's brought in a lot of guys at running back who are UDFA and have potential over the years. Carson Steele, I think, is the only one that got meaningful playing time, especially as a rookie. So maybe not the most luck there, but other running back classes haven't been as populated as is this class, which means more quality running backs are likely to fall out of the draft. But in the second round, those 2 are kind of the only 2 that I would go for. In the third, I do like Trevor Etienne, 5'9", 198. You're looking at a guy who reads blocks very well. That is something that we have seen certain Kansas City Chiefs running backs struggle with. Caleb Johnson is an absolute bruiser. If he is there in the third, that would not be a bad selection, especially if it's that final third round pick. Johnson is a big back who rushed for a career-high 1,537 yards and 21 touchdowns. The crazy thing about him, I can't remember the exact number. He has insane tackle breaking numbers. So wide receiver, lots of names here. Jaden Higgins, 6'4", 214. Higgins caught 140 passes for 2,166 yards and 15 touchdowns in his 2 seasons at Iowa State and had an outstanding workout and at the Combine. He's an effective hand fighter with enough speed to beat press coverage. He explodes off the line and sticks his foot in the ground at the top of his routes. A guy that we saw get a lot of hype leading up to the draft. Should he be there in the second round, I think that could be the pick. Trey Harris, another freak, 6'2", 205. Harris is a Louisiana Tech transfer who caught 114 passes for 2,015 yards and 15 touchdowns in his 2 seasons at Ole Miss. He's productive after the catch, making the first defender miss, etc., etc. I think that this is a guy who has starting X potential. Jaden Higgins has starting X potential. And so, of course, does Luther Burden, 6 feet tall, 206 pounds. Burden is outstanding after the catch and an instinctive open field runner with the foot speed to make multiple defenders miss. He explodes upfield and pulls away when he gets a seam. Absolutely mind-blowing to me that Luther Burden was not a first-round pick. Luther Burden will be a productive wide receiver in the NFL for a very long time. Luther Burden is a starting wide receiver. He's a starting X receiver. He might be a starting number 1 wide receiver. In my opinion, he is a starting number 1 wide receiver. If you're looking at pure wide receivers, he was my number 2 wide receiver in this class behind Teteroa McMillan. Heading into the season, he was my number 1. The thing is, it was the quarterback play from Mizzou, I think, that really made Luther Burden struggle his final year in college, and I don't think that is going to be a problem moving forward for him. Jaylen Noel. A lot of people like Jaylen Noel, 5'10", 194. I'm not the biggest fan. Jack Besh, 6'1", 214. Some people say Beck. This is a slot receiver in the NFL. He might be what Sky Moore was supposed to be. He's not. I don't think he's all that. I don't remember his 40. I don't think he's all that fast. I might be wrong. Beck is just the 5th player in TCU history to record 1,000 receiving yards, and he was named the 2025 Senior Bowl Most Valuable Player. His focus and hand-eye coordination are outstanding. He rarely drops a ball and makes contested catches. This is a guy that Patrick Mahomes has not had. A big slot receiver. People are going to try him at X in the NFL. I don't know if that is going to be his game. Jaylen Royals. Some people are very high on Jaylen Royals, 6'2", 205. I think that he is a guy that will be a quality wide receiver 3 in the NFL. Royals tied for the quickest 10-yard split, 149 regardless of position at the Combine, and that burst shows up after the catch. His acceleration is instant, and he pulls away from pursuit when he gets a crease. A guy who I think is going to be productive at the NFL is going to outproduce probably a lot of players who are comparable in size, but I think it's going to be I think he's going to be a check down master at the next level. So Kyle Williams, if I'm not mistaken, Steve Smith is very high on Kyle Williams, 5'11", 190. Williams is a big play threat who averaged 17.1 yards per catch in 2024. He ran well at the Combine for 4 seconds in the 40-yard dash, and that speed allows him to run past defenders when he gets a free release. He is a speed checks out guy. He is a guy that will probably, I think he's going to, this gets thrown around a lot, right? But I think he is a 10-year NFL guy. He is going to start in the NFL, I think, as a rookie, because I think it's going to be almost impossible for someone to keep him off of the field, and it's going to pay off for somebody drafting him. Might slip to the 3rd round, and that would be massive for whoever gets their hands on him there. And finally, guys, would you be mad if the Chiefs went offensive tackle in rounds 1 and 2? I would not. The offensive line has been such a sore spot in Kansas City on so many occasions. I would not be angry if they went offensive line back-to-back in the 1st and 2nd round. I would not be angry if they went offensive line in the 1st and 3rd round, either of those 3rd-round picks. Arante Ursery, 6'6", 331 pounds, a Kansas City guy from Minnesota. Ursery didn't start playing football until his junior year of high school. He started one game at right tackle in 2020 and the final 38 games of his career at left tackle. Ursery has starting left tackle potential. Ursery has plus level left tackle potential in the NFL. And if the Kansas City Chiefs, they had a glut of right tackle type guys for a while. If they suddenly find themselves having too many players that can play left tackle, who among us will complain? Who among us will be sore at that prospect? The Kansas City Chiefs do not have a whole lot of absolute needs, so if they find themselves with a glut of offensive line talent, I would be elated. So, yeah. Belton, I think is a third-round guy, 6'6", 336, with starting level potential. I think that he could probably start a lot of places in the NFL at right tackle as a rookie. He is a guy that I think will grow into potential left tackle type territory. Cameron Williams, another guy, 6'6", 317, I think is very underrated in this draft class. Could start, I think, eventually at either tackle position. Emory Jones is interesting, 6'5", 315 out of LSU. Chase Lunt, I think, has some potential. I think he's a fifth-round guy. And then we have the guy, Jalen Travis, who kind of rocketed up some interest boards prior to the draft. A guy that has very extreme tools and could be a starter in the NFL. I think he will take a year of acclimation. I think that is a third-round type guy. So those are, in my opinion, some of the best available and some of the best available at positions of need for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on the channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There are daily uploads on this channel. If you want to help me out, hitting the like button really does help me out. Hitting the subscribe button to make sure you stick around for other videos. I will be back later today with a day 2 mock draft from PFF. I will be back with a long form video on Josh Simmons, and I will be back with the rest of the picks, actual videos for the picks for players in this draft. So stick around for all of that. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.